Hey everyone, and welcome to the debut episode of Top Tier Wrestling. I'm your friendly neighborhood soda, and joined by my old partner in crime, Dustyn. It's been a while, man.
I know, it's been a while.
What, a year?
I'd say last fall, yeah. I'd say we're pushing a year.
Yeah, it's coming on a year. Holy crap.
Crazy.
Yeah, a lot's happened. We're on a different channel doing this stuff now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now we think we know what we're doing, kind of.
Yeah, I'm still winging it.
A little bit. I know.
It says in the Raiders, I make this up as I go along.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly about where we're at.
Yeah.
But how have you been in these? Even though we talk offline plenty, but for the camera, Soda, how have you been?
I'm doing good. I'm not doing as much podcasting as I said in the agreement as I was when we last were doing this, which is a blessing. But yeah, no, other than that, I'm just living it day by day and eating on camera and just enjoying what I'm doing.
I know. What are you doing? You're like breaking rule number one. Just
I'm actually at the point now where I don't care. I will eat and I will actually legit light a joint on camera. Like, I know not many people are watching, so whatever.
True, very true. And you, like you said, you're down to a couple things now.
Basically, and yeah, in all honesty, actually, I worked later today than I normally do. So it's just now I'm settling in and so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you still got sunlight up there in Canada right now.
Sunlight, but it's hot. It's hot right now. It's what 30 something degrees Celsius here. It's supposed to be like that all week.
Okay.
So hold on. I gotta remember.
Are you converting for me? Are you converting for me?
I will be. Let me find out what the actual temperature is here. But while I'm looking that up, man, how have you been?
Pretty good. Summer's rolling around, as you know. And our previous shows, I still play vintage baseball, so that's been taking my time. I already played like 5 games of that. And
nice.
Yeah, doing that, doing other podcasts that I do locally here, and I still do metal shows and working and doing family stuff. I'm always busy. So, but I'm still watching wrestling. So, we're still shoving that in when I can.
I definitely had to cut back, especially after Mania.
Yeah, the Mania lull's a true thing.
But then now I'm kind of back into like, I'll watch if I got nothing else going on, except for obviously the pay-per-views. I still watch every pay-per-view.
Yeah, for sure. The only thing I watch live is WWE PLEs. I mean, those are like, they're the one thing that is. I mean, again, I don't watch a lot of AEW, but WWE PLEs always land, and they're just.
Which is why I watch them, but I don't watch the regular programming.
Yeah, I rarely watch the regular programming right now.
And I do get the AEW pay-per-views, but the reason being is it's only every couple of months, and I can afford every other couple of months. So
right. Yeah, that is the one thing that they have going is the 4 pay-per-views a year. That's that's not a bad model. I'm glad WWE scaled back.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it definitely feels like it for sure.
Oh yeah, WWE's in their sweet spot now. It feels like 4, 5, 6 weeks in between.
Yeah,
very nice. Not every 3 weeks like they were doing, which was just the worst.
Although if you watch it, AEW, there was like 2 within 2 weeks of each other.
Yeah, they did the 2 within 2 weeks, which is so weird. It's a very weird thing to do.
Very weird, but the only saving grace was one was on a Saturday afternoon, the other was on a Sunday night. So
yeah. That's true. It's interesting. Yeah, the world of wrestling's fun right now.
It is. And speaking of the world of wrestling, we are might as well introduce what the show is. So basically, what we're doing is there is a show out there. Actually, it's no longer on air, but there's a show out there called the Top 10 Show by John. Almost called them John Schnepp. May he rest in peace. John Roca and Matt Nost. And basically, what they did is they would each come with 2 top 10 lists about movies. And they would come at the end of the show, they would combine their lists into one. Well, we're going to take the same concept, but we're going to apply it to wrestling. And I know Top Tier Wrestling kind of makes a thing. We're going to do tier ranking videos, and who knows, we might. But predominantly, it's going to be these top 10 lists because we did them prior on our old show, and it seemed like to be the ones that we have the best time doing.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that, and I think maybe the little bit of fun part about this, and I haven't listened to Top 10 in a long time, but one thing that you and I talked about off camera is I think we're throwing a little bit of like the what we should do out the window. And we're doing what we want to do and what we like. So like when I made my first list today, I was looking at it, I'm like, I feel like I'm making the list that I'm supposed to make as a wrestling fan. And that's why I had to message you. I'm like, wait, am I making the list we're supposed to make, or am I making the list that I would make?
It's the list you would make.
Okay, so that makes it more fun.
Yeah.
Because, some people are going to hate some of this stuff.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Like, I've got a couple of, like, I know we did this topic before, didn't we?
I think we talked about it, but I don't think we did it like this.
Because if we did, then my list is different than it would have been back then. Because I'm looking at it now. My number one, I've watched a lot of their stuff in the last year, and it's kind of grown my appreciation for them.
Okay.
And there's also stuff on here for, like, there's AEW stuff on here that I don't know if I would have included a couple years ago because I was just at the birth of my fandom with them. Now I'm all in, no pun intended.
No, I know. Like, I was doing mine, and I was like, the reason why I do think we talked about it, I don't think we did a list because I would have remembered too much because I sat down with this and I was like, this is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I have like so many scratch outs and stuff on this thing. And the only reason I know we did it is because my number 10, I'm pretty sure, was like a faction that I brought up I brought it up. Granted, I might have brought it up in another way, but I was like, okay, this is fun and stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I don't know if we did because, like, even I'm looking at this now, and I don't think I'm going to stick with exactly how I have these.
Yeah, me neither. Like, I mean, this is a list that I'm pretty sure will change again.
Yeah.
Because we're as evidenced by here, like, there's always new great stable. Well, not great, but there's always new stables with potential.
Yeah.
And I just realized, like, I have one on here that's a current one that's firing on all cylinders that I never would have thought of, and I didn't even make my honorable mentions. Just thought of them until now. Judgment Day.
Oh yeah, no, Judgment Day I was reading about too. I know I went to I don't remember some of them. There was a few that I completely forgot. There's one I'm going to bring up in honorable mentions that I was like, oh my god, I would have never thought of it. And I'm like, I had so much fun with that particular faction that I was into.
Not gonna lie, number 10, I was kind of out of nowhere. I wouldn't have thought of them until I was like, I wrote them down. And I was like,
see, my number 10 is the one I knew was going to be my number 10. Because I like to reserve my 10 spot for the goofy, for like there's a reason why it should be number 10. Like I don't think it needs to be that serious, the 10 spot.
Mine's low for a specific reason, but 8 because it's goofy.
But even I still look at mine and I'm like, I don't even know. Like my number 9, which we're going to get to, and I'll talk about it then, is like, I don't even know if I have that much of an emotional connection to it. And I'm like trying to get myself out of that mode of like, am I supposed to put it because I'm a wrestling fan? Or do I get rid of it because I didn't have that big of a connection to it? And that's my killer.
Yeah, and I kind of went, it's a mixture of both for me because I like to say I'm an amateur wrestling historian. Take with that what you will. So I kind of look at it as like what history says combined with where I personally feel. So there might be some on here that are lower, like you said, they might be lower than other people might have them. But
right. Yeah.
So before we go on, let's just discuss the format. So basically, it's going to be separated into 4 little chunks. So we're going to have us revealing back and forth our 10, 9, and 8 picks. And then we're going to reveal our 7, 6. And then we're going to review our list, what we've talked about so far. And then we're going to do 5, 4, 3, and then 2, 1.
Yep.
And then afterwards, we will take our list, and the ones we agree on will be the one higher up on the list, and that's how we will make them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, who gets to start first?
Well, you know what? This is your thing. I'll let you start.
Okay. Number 12, I'm going to go with a recent one from NXT.
Do you mean number 10? We're doing 10, right?
Why did I do 12?
I don't.
This makes sense then. 10. Actually, I'm gonna swap one out. My 10's gonna be different then. Why was I thinking 12? There's something that I do quite a bit.
Thank God you didn't choose 12. Well, even though I have like 16 written down, so
yeah. So actually, that means I'm gonna have quite a bit. My previous number 10 is now going to be an honorable mention. Okay, that makes more sense. So my current number 10 is actually a current one, and the reason being is there's still more to tell. It's the Elite.
Sure.
I have become a fan of their matches. Like I didn't grow up with them, quote unquote, like most people have. But from what I've seen in AEW, I've become a really big fan. The Kenny Omega matches recently against Will Ospreay. Holy shit, that first one might still be my match of the year. Like that, it's not often that I fall into a match, but this one legit had me thinking he's gonna hurt him.
Yep.
And my favorite match of the year 2 years ago was the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers in the steel cage.
Yeah.
Still can't get over that match. And then, of course, Hangman Adam Page, who had a decent run with the AEW title. He's back with the Elite now. I mean, they're back to firing on all cylinders, but there's more to come. So that's why they're at number 10.
Sure. That makes total sense. Yeah, I get that. Not on my list, so yep.
No, and I figured it was.
Are we gonna do
on your list?
Yeah, and not to interrupt, are we gonna punt on this too? Are we gonna do the?
Yes. If there is one that
We
I
match
think
on.
it's higher on his list and vice versa, we will punt it. But should we keep it punt? I guess punt kick for Randy Orton, or
I'm sorry, say it one more time.
should we let the punt was more for the football thing for the top 10? Should we keep that for the punt kick from Orton, or should we maybe come up with something else?
Ooh, good one. I don't know. We should. What's another good one that like throws you off? I don't know if we have to think of it on right now. Maybe as we go, we'll come up with
Keep it
something
in the back
fun.
of our minds.
Yeah, but for now, we'll punt. For now, we'll punt.
All right. So what is your number 10?
Well, don't you have to do 9?
Huh?
Don't you have to do 9? Don't they go straight down the order?
Nope. Back and forth.
Oh, do they do a back and forth? All right. My number 10, like I said, it's not the greatest faction in the world, but it's fun, and it has a lot of gimmicks, and Soda knows I love a spectacle and some gimmick.
It's the oddity.
It's close. You're on the right track, Soda. It's WCW's The Dungeon of Doom.
Really?
Oh, yeah. With Kevin Sullivan, the Shark, the Giant, the Zodiac, Abdullah the Butcher. I mean, love it. Love everything about it. It's so that time frame of WCW. It's just a cluster of legendary talent across the sea's tail. Kamala was in it at one point. It's just Zeus. Yeah, every Conan was in it at one point. Every goofy dude in that early 90s who had this mystique, who had the gimmick, who had the shtick, was in this. Right. It's just ridiculous. Everything about it's so fun. And if you watch, it's all terrible.
Oh, totally.
But it's memorable because they literally were like, let's take all the things, put it under Kevin Sullivan, and throw it against the wall. And it's a disaster.
Oh,
but
totally.
I still love it.
All culminating in that horrible Doomsday Cage from Hell thing they did uncensored.
When they electrocute Abdullah the Butcher in that chair.
Yeah. It's you could tell watching, they had no idea what they were doing.
They had no idea. That was when WCW was at like peak bad too. I mean,
well, 1995 in general was just bad between them and WWE.
Yes, it is such a down time, and it's just fun.
Yeah,
it's straight fun just to see Kevin Sullivan actually shockingly very good at it.
Oh,
He's
totally.
The demonic leader. He was the good part, and then it was all this other junk around it.
Well, as I've been watching more about just wrestling history in general, I've been learning that's actually a gimmick of his that goes back all the way to Championship Wrestling from Florida.
Yep, 100%. And that was when he was top in WCW too. It's too bad. It's too bad it took this like schlock of John Tenta and Beefcake and Abby and the Giant and Zeus.
Oh, the Butcher was in it.
Oh yeah, he was the one that got electrocuted. Remember, freaking Earthquake's the Shark. Like, remember that Earthquake?
Well, the thing I remember with Abdullah wasn't then. That happened like 4 years prior.
Yeah, that's right. He was in the other thing. Yeah, that's right.
That's the one I remember. I don't remember.
Yeah, I got confused. Yeah, but it was just monsters. That's all it was. It was just
basically it was monsters to feed Hogan and his ego, basically.
Correct, and it's dumb, but I have a great time in it, and I like Kevin Sullivan. So.
Oh yeah, Kevin Sullivan. Yeah.
Could I have put much better factions at number 10? Yes, but it's I always feel like number 10 on the list is your throwaway number anyway. So
yeah, either throwaway or like in my case, if it's something new with more to tell, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so my number 9 is this was on here more out of respect than the amount of stuff I've seen in them. They are arguably one of the most important factions in history. The Fabulous Freebirds.
Yeah. They were my number 9, and I scratched them off.
They're a faction that, unless you don't realize just how big their impact was. They were one of the very first, if not the first to popularize the concept of using music as your entrance. I know Gorgeous George did it with Pomp and Circumstance, but that was just more of a character. These are the guys that, okay, now they're doing it, we got to do it, sort of thing. They basically went in and reinvigorated the Texas territory. Michael Hayes on an episode of, actually on several episodes of WWE's Legends of Wrestling, has said that like prior to them going in, nobody was saying, hey, we're going to Texas to make some money. It wasn't until they went in and fought, the heroes their age where the whole territory blew up. So, I mean, you can't have a faction list without them being somewhere on it. So I have them at number 9 because, like I said, it's more out of respect than it is what I've seen of them. Because I haven't seen much.
Yeah, no, it's good. They were on my honorable mentions, and I threw them off because I almost put them back on right at 9, to be honest, because I actually don't like my 9. But like, I love Terry Gordy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I watch Terry Gordy stuff. I was just watching like some of his Japan stuff in the late 90s when he was past his prime. But he's just a big dude, I don't know what it is, but I love the big cowboy down home, I'm going to beat your ass gimmick. I love it. And no offense, Terry Gordy, that's pretty much who he was.
Oh, totally. In and out the ring.
Yeah, and then you got them and the Von Erichs and world classes. Besides AWA, world class is probably my favorite territory to watch.
Yeah, their stuff is is really interesting to go back and watch because it almost feels like a beta test for what WWE did.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. Yeah, they knew how to sell. One thing I loved about WCCW is they knew how to sell bad guys versus good guys.
Oh, totally.
And like all of it was split down the middle. Like it goes even beyond just their feud, but everything you could still watch Von Erich stuff and Freebird stuff. It's still so good and watchable.
Yeah, you can still go back and watch like the promos from Jimmy Garvin and David Von Erich, where he had to be the slave and stuff. They still hold up. Like they made it entertaining before WWE did.
Yeah, yeah. They were famous in Texas.
Oh,
I
totally.
mean, crazy famous.
Yeah, the Sportatorium was considered hallowed ground.
Yes.
To the point I believe it's been torn down, and there was a massive push to make it a historical landmark because it was.
Yeah. What do you say? I mean, and Michael Hayes, look at what he did for the business in general. He's still doing it somehow.
He's still higher up in WWE. He's still one of the best minds. He still produces some of the best matches, like the important ones. So, I mean, respect to the dude. And he's a guy like one. I always like to say there's a bunch of guys that I could sit under the learning tree and just listen to for hours. Michael Hayes is one of them.
Yeah,
the stories and the knowledge. Like, I love to go and watch that Legends of Wrestling panel because there's a whole bunch of episodes of different eras, and you hear perspectives that you don't normally hear, and it's really cool to hear. I wish they would bring that show back because I've been thinking about it. When that came out, you were in the middle of the Ruth, like at tail end of the Ruthless Aggression era. We're like 15 years later now.
I know.
So now those guys are retired. So we can get Edge on a panel. We can get Triple H on a panel. Randy Orton can talk about his experiences. And then now there's guys that they're on better terms with they can, bring into the fold. So it's like, it's there. Like WWE Network should be not just Netflix, but it should also be like a college course for people that want to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big miss that WWE's had lately.
Oh, 100%. The tables with 3 were okay, but
it depended on the one. Some of them were just ugh.
Yeah, like why are you 3 together?
Yeah, I think it's because they're putting all that time into the A&E shows, which are very well done.
Yeah, I love the Most Wanted Treasures because I love that type of show.
Yeah, and the biographies show's good if you like I don't know. We know enough.
That's what I was going to say.
Hard to watch them
much. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I almost watched them like the whole hour of them just for them like 3 minutes of outrageously rare backstage footage that they'll pull out of nowhere, and you're like, okay, that's cool.
I did go because I don't subscribe to A&E. I did go and purchase the Dusty Rose one because I heard it was really good.
I watched the Dusty one and it was so good.
I agree.
Yeah, the older ones are better. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my number 9 that I switched the Freebirds out for, and I wasn't again thrilled, and it for sure it might be a punt for yours, but I didn't connect with Evolution as much as other people did.
You know what? They're my number 8.
Okay, perfect. So we could talk about it then. But yeah,
Yes.
I don't know. It's more or less what Evolution did to propel the rest. Like, you got Flair back into it.
Mm-hmm.
You got the last Triple H version, I think, before he became too like, hey, Triple H is kind of running the show. It was kind of his last gig at just being Triple H, kind of in a way.
Version of Triple H, yeah.
Yeah. So you got that, but I remember hating them so much. But they mattered so much for that like year and a half. In a time for but that's probably about how long, right? It wasn't that long of a run.
Well, they did try early on, but Matt got derailed from the injuries. So it would have been at the end of 2003, because 2004 was the Mania 20 match and Orton and Foley at Backlash. So,
and then
not even actually.
No, because
Orton won the title.
Yeah, because then and then what? Batista stayed for another.
Batista stayed till just before Mania because he won the Rumble and.
Right. So yeah, year and a half.
Oh, about a year-ish.
And a year in a downtime and a WWE too. That's the other big thing. But again, you got really good stuff out of it. You got the return of Flair that nobody could believe we were getting. Like nobody could believe that we were going to get another 6 years roughly of Flair wrestling.
It was actually 2.5 years technically. If I went on Wikipedia and they could.
Yeah, because Batista won the Rumble in 2006, right?
No, 05.
05.
Because WWE, the way they celebrate their anniversaries, it's a year off than what it's supposed to be.
Sure.
No, so the original formation was in 2002, and that's when they got hurt. And then in June 2003 is when in September at Unforgiven is Orton started rising to prominence. So yeah, it would have been
about 2 years.
About that, yeah, about 2 years.
Yeah, because I remember like they got huge, and then when they turned on Orton, like that was a big deal.
I remember being all in for that, but then now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I'm with everyone else. It was a little too early.
It was quick. It didn't really work for Orton, and then by the time they dropped Orton out, everybody knew that Batista was going next, and like we all saw it. And
they were they the first to ever hold all the main titles in WWE for one brand? Because they at Armageddon 03, Orton won the IC title, Batista and Flair won the
tag titles,
and Triple H won the heavyweight title. And they had that for a while.
Yeah, and that was so cool. I thought that was the other thing I was going to bring up that I liked about it. I thought it was so cool Batista and Flair had the tags. Yeah. And the image of them on the ramp the image with them on the ramp, and they were all just like with the belts, felt cool.
Yeah, 100%.
So, all right. Well, that makes sense why they're 9 and 8. Again, though, I don't have a huge emotional connection.
For a long period of time as well, as we said.
Right.
Okay, so that's also my 8, so now we're on to your 8.
Well, my 8's also the new one that I got, but I'm going to put the Bloodline at number 8.
Soft punt.
Okay, soft punt. We'll talk about it in a second.
Okay, so, all right, so now we're just going to go over what we have. So at number 10, I had The Elite. At number 9, I had the Fabulous Freebirds. And at number 8, I had Evolution.
Evolution. My number 10 was Dungeon of Doom. Yep. Evolution. It had a monster truck, by the way. Dungeon of Doom had a WCW monster truck.
Everyone had a monster truck.
I know. The only reason why I know that, fun fact, I was there in Minneapolis as a kid when they debuted that monster truck. I was there.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Weird thing. Weird memory.
Did you say you watched Most Wanted Treasures?
It depends.
Okay, so they did the Macho Man one, and they actually found the cowboy hat from his.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Somebody found it. There was at a pawn shop where he's from, and he bought it, and it was in his garage, and they ended up getting off him. And I think they've repainted it to look like it did back then.
Funny. That's cool.
It's big. It's about the size of this room.
I was just saying, it's be huge. Who has?
Yeah, it's about the size of this room, if not slightly bigger.
Who has that? That's funny. I'll have to look that up because that's ridiculous. And then number 8 had Bloodline. So.
All right. So my number 7 is I went with one that I really enjoyed, but again, they weren't around too long. This is from the early days of WCW, not NWA. The Dangerous Alliance.
Yeah, I thought about Dangerous Alliance.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, let's look who's on that team, shall we? So you have Paul Heyman in his earlier days. You have Medusa as the valet. You have Rick Rude as the centerpiece. You have Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton,
Yes.
and then 1990s Rookie of the Year. Not quite Stone Cold, but he is stunning, Steve Austin.
So awesome.
This is a faction that, unfortunately, because the higher-ups hated Heyman, pretty much kiboshed.
What's so short? That was why I didn't put him on.
Wasn't even a year.
It was so short.
But in that time, they were one of the most popular acts, one of the best acts, and they were involved in what is arguably my favorite War Games match to date against Sting Squadron.
Yes, that is probably my favorite War Game.
Yeah.
I love it. I almost put him because I love Bobby Eaton so much. He is another dude that I can watch so often. Like he's like, if you were to say like, where's like 10 of your favorite like people that wrestled before your time that you could watch consistently now, Bobby Eaton's always one of my choices because he is so smooth and so slick.
Oh yeah.
But the fact you had Rick Rude and Austin and Paulie just hamming it up, and that was when Medusa was bad ass.
Oh yeah.
And oh god, but it was so short. That's the sad part. So short.
Again, all because Heyman pissed off the wrong people. Again,
weird. Paul Heyman pissed off the wrong. Who would have thought that they would do that? Yeah, I know. I thought about that. It was one of the ones I had in my list of like 20. I had that like probably somewhere in my late teens. But you're a WCW guy.
Yeah,
so I get it. Oh, don't worry, my ECW head is going to pop up later. So.
Oh yeah, I was, and that's the thing. Like I didn't
get
watch any ECW because I didn't watch a lot of, if any ECW. I was running the occasional tape, but that was about it.
Yeah, see, that's the same here. I didn't. Yeah, we know this about each other. I didn't watch old WCW either.
Yeah, basically a lot of my knowledge just comes from history, just from reading about history. That's why I was like, oh, maybe I should include the Triple Threat on here. Is FBI worthy of an honorable mention? You know,
oh god, FBI was so fun.
All right, so that is my. Now we're on to the soft punt from earlier. This is where the bloodline lands. Only reason they are this low is again because the story isn't over. But oh my fucking god, has it been great, especially the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Sammy joined.
I have been telling people. I get people that like you and I are very pro bloodline, and we've stated like as a good story. I've been all in. Yeah. I've been in, like, sure, there's times where I go, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still not thrilled that they didn't give Cody the belt.
Agreed.
I think that's the only misstep that they've made.
Yeah.
But, so we're past that, so it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, a lot of stuff's happened since then.
A lot of stuff's happened, but the one thing that I tell everyone who messages me saying they're sick of the bloodline, they're sick of this, they're sick of that, I'm like, you know the one thing I'm not sick of is what's going to happen at a premium line event with them because they are must-watch main shit.
So let's see what like the highlights. So we had War Games. What did we have anything in December? That's the only one that I'm kind of iffy on.
I don't think so. Did they take December off this year?
They might have. I feel like they did.
Yeah, there was a big gap before the Rumble this year.
Yeah. So anyway, so we had War Games. And then at the Rumble, you had Sami Zayn turning on the bloodline in a really loud fucking pop. At then the following PLE, you had Elimination Chamber in Sami's hometown, him versus Roman Reigns. One of the hottest crowds you'll see in a long time. WrestleMania, you had the Usos versus Owens and Sami Zayn. Roman versus Cody. Again, I'm still kind of on that side, but not as much as I was when it happened. Now I'm like, okay, I kind of see what they're doing with Cody now. I'm like, okay, I'll just let it play out.
Yeah.
And then so we had that, and then what do we have at Backlash? Oh, do we have anything at Backlash?
Didn't Roman? God, you've got to look that up.
I'm doing that right now, because really the only thing that I remember is the Bad Bunny match and the Cody Brock match. I feel like they didn't actually.
Yeah, no, wasn't Roman?
No, I forgot. Sorry, I forgot. It was the Bloodline, Solo, and the Usos versus Matt Riddle, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. And
that's right.
forgot about that.
That's right.
It's got the walls, and so then after that, what do we have after that?
God, are my memories shot when it comes to this shit? I should be better at this considering how recent it was.
Too much weed. Oh, Night of Champions. Okay, so Night of Champions is where we had Roman and Solo lose to Sammy and KO, which, oh my god, the stuff that Sammy got to do with that was really fucking cool. Like just being able him to represent his heritage. Like I didn't know a lot about that stuff, and it was like, that's fucking dope.
Yeah, and then you had the big.
After that, well, according to Wikipedia's NXT Battleground, but then after that was Money in the Bank,
where Jay finally got the pin on Roman.
And in between there, we had Jey Uso super kicking Roman to a really big pop.
When Jimmy kicked him, that was awesome.
You're out, and I'm out too. Boom!
Yeah, that was awesome. Well, and again, we have the lead up to it, like this, and that's the cool thing. And again, and now as we record this, we're on our way to SummerSlam, which the assumption is it's Jay versus Roman for the belt.
Yeah, Roman. You could make an argument for Jay to dethrone him.
I don't think anymore, but it could happen.
Yeah,
but again, it started with Jay and Roman, and we have weaved our way through here. We've added Sammy. Roman's beat Drew. Roman beat Brock a couple times. Roman beat Cody. Yep. He beat Logan Paul. He did all these things. And Roman, again, I get it. To all the people that hate it, that's too long. But when it comes time for the big show, he shows up, and that's all you want to know.
And that's the thing that I think helps it, is if Roman was there every week, then I would probably be of agreement that it is too long. But because he only shows up at certain times, which is normally something I hate, it works.
It works.
Because
everything feels
in trouble.
Right. And everything feels big. Like, I'm sorry, but it just does. And everything involving them feels
doing his best to sell everything, being the little weasels, like, call the tribal chief, like
I know. Let's not forget Paul in this,
right?
And how Paul has sold this to the max.
It would have been good without him, but he was the extra flavoring it needed.
I mean, I'm to the point where whenever we do a manager one, I am really thinking that Paul Heyman is as close to the best manager, roughly outside of Bobby Heenan, that's ever.
He's the only one that has the best chance to dethrone Heenan in the overall conversation.
Well, I mean, what's even like I've talked to other buddies who are way more like intense about this stuff, and even they go, "We don't even know what to say because Paul can do it all."
Not many managers can say they've been on top for as long as he has, because he came back. What was it? When did Brock come back? That would have been
2012.
2012, so we're at 11 years. He's been on top for 11 years.
He literally jumped from Brock to Punk. Back to Brock.
Right back in them.
Oh, and Cesaro a little bit.
Back to Brock.
Back to Brock to Bloodline.
That's
insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Bloodline story is still going, but it's the best thing in wrestling. Nobody can fight. Anybody who says anything's better than they're wrong. This is the best thing in wrestling.
It's subjective. Everyone's all have their own opinions, but they're wrong.
They're wrong. This story is what wrestling fans have been begging for 15 years. A long-term story that works. WWE, give it again. Don't get me wrong. There's sometimes where Bloodline stuff comes up and I'm like, oh God, here we go.
Yeah.
And you're just, there's parts you lull a little bit here and there. But at the end of the day, when it comes, like I said, big time, it's going. And we probably got, again, we're recording in July. You probably got another 8 months till WrestleMania 40 to deal with it.
Yeah, basically, which is if they better fucking put the belt on Cody, and then Roman will go away for a while.
We knew once he beat Cody that he has it for another year.
Yeah.
Because what's the point?
Well, yeah, because at that point you're like, okay, we've got the 1,000 days coming up and all that shit.
Yeah. So it's cool. Yeah, I get it. Bloodline's great.
Yeah,
okay.
It would be higher if they were done. If we were on to something else, they would be higher.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting once this is all said and done and the smoke clears in like a couple of years, how high that jumps.
Before we go on to your next pick, I want to say this. A lot of people are already putting it in the conversation with, storylines like Hogan Savage from 88, 89. that's considered one of the best year-long stories ever told, and this is being compared to it.
Oh, I mean, in modern time, I just don't know. Even in WWF history, from '85 to now, I mean, tell me 10 stories better. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Like, I mean, people could say you could throw in, Sean and Brett.
Sean and Brett, Hogan, Andre, Hogan, Savage.
Yeah.
Punk, Cena.
There's definitely been nothing like this. None of them have lasted this long.
Yeah, and again, they luck out also with the Samoan thing.
Right.
They're legit family people. And then you throw in, and again, we haven't really talked about Solo jumping in this.
Right, and he added in a little bit of freshness into
He
there.
did.
He's
he
the
did.
perfect henchman. And this isn't like, if you'd have done this 30 years ago, you would have had guys that look like me on the Samoan team. But now you got legit athletes, guys who are like the best of their craft. The Usos, people are at this point saying they could be the best team in WWE history. And there's still more to come.
To be honest with you, that's another thing that it's tough not to say.
I'm not arguing anymore.
In the history of WWE, where tag teams is a little more subjective, I don't know, man. Usos might be there's people now, like, there's old timers saying that.
Yeah.
They're literally saying it. They're like, and again, that's before Bloodline. I already thought they were in the conversation.
They were in the conversation. And yeah, now they're top of WWE all time, and they're in the conversation for all time, period.
All time, period. It's crazy to think that stuff still can happen.
I know, right?
Like, it's weird. Like you always feel like that's done. And then that's why wrestling's great. That's why we talk about it. That's why it's great.
That's why we're making these. Okay, so
I knew we'd talk a little bit about Bloodline. So I'm going to do the same thing with the Freebirds thing. And again, I think you might do it on this anyway, because I feel like this is low. It's only because I'm 34 years old. So I wasn't around when the Four Horsemen were a huge thing. I love it. Is that a punt for you?
It is a slight punt as well. So we'll be talking about it in the next thing.
Well, the other one might be a slight punt for you too as we go. But I have number 6. I have the Shield.
Okay.
Do you have it up there? No?
Shield, slight punt, number 5.
All right, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah, number 5.
Then we'll talk about both mine in a second.
Yeah, exactly, because spoilers, Horseman's number 4.
Okay, great. Well, look at that. That'll be an easy switch around.
Easy one. Okay, so far we have at number 10 for me, The Elite. Number 9, Freebirds. Number 8, Evolution. And number 7, Dangerous Alliance. And number 6, The Bloodline.
Yeah, so for me, Dungeon of Doom, Evolution, 8 at Bloodline, 7, The Four Horsemen, and 6, The Shield for me.
Alrighty, so... Yeah, so my number 5 was The Shield, which was your last one.
Yeah, it was my last one.
Yeah. So, again, this is one that I don't know personally if I would have included a couple years ago, but now in 2023, 100%. For everything we just talked about with Roman Reigns, for how much better Seth Rollins has gotten to the point where he is. And then on the other side, you have Jon Moxley pretty much ruling the roost. So... I was watching something the other day, and they were talking about the Shield, and one of the things that was brought up is there aren't that many, if any, where you can say they launched all 3 like that.
Right. Yeah, especially launched them like they weren't commodities prior.
Yeah.
They just were. Well, and the debut was perfect.
100%.
To jump the ring and just pull a Nexus, but better.
Yeah, and that's what they were. They started off as henchmen, and then within a year and a half, they're one of the hottest acts in WWE. And then Seth Rollins breaks up the group, and boom, we're off to the fucking races.
Yeah. Well, and when the group was hot, I mean,
the
Shield was hot. When the Delta Echo whatever hit, I mean, it was just
Sierra, Tel, Indigo, Echo.
Yeah.
I don't know what L is, and then Delta.
Lima,
Delta, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it's just, and again, they looked out in a lot of ways with the group. Like, it worked so well. You had the big heavy in Roman, the good-looking young guy who was, a perfect guy that just came through the WWE system. The Samoan.
The heater, the one to get all the the beatings, which was Dean Ambrose at the beginning, in my opinion.
And Dean,
I hated him at the beginning. I thought he was obnoxious as fuck.
Yeah, well, and Dean has a weird, especially then. His looks changed a lot now, but his look then was so weird and different and just rugged and odd. And then you had the good-looking indie guy who could do the moves and move all over the place, and they all just they legit think they could kick the shit out of you.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, you hear the music, oh, someone's in trouble.
Yeah, and the amount of stuff that they did, in a relatively short time.
Yeah, and especially their last 4 months. I brought this up with Dagan the other day. At Elimination Chamber, right before they split up, at Elimination Chamber, you had the match against the Wyatts, and then you had against Kane and the New Age Outlaws at WrestleMania, whatever.
That was fun.
And then you had the 2 back-to-back pay-per-view matches with Evolution. Which were really good. People don't talk about them, but they were really good.
Yeah, that I know. And the other one that I always throw is the Rhodes match.
Yeah, that's
Cody,
right.
Goldust, and Dusty
at Night of Champions. That was a really good match.
So freaking fun, and the storyline built up to it was awesome. Yep. And then again, throwing the Wyatt stuff, and then the Ryback stuff, the Cena stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good.
The Authority. Yeah.
It was good. It was good stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, that was fun.
How many times has Seth won the world title? How many times has Roman won the world title? And Moxley's won, once or twice in WWE? And he's a 2-time AEW champion?
Yeah, and without the Shield thing and jumping ship, he ain't the highest paid guy in AEW.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people disagree. I'd say deservedly so. Just for what he puts into it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and he came in with
about his style. I know it's not for everybody, but you can't deny the guy puts in his all and earns it.
Sure, yeah, and he was the first big guy to do the jump, and without that huge
Double or Nothing, the inaugural one shows up and he kicks the shit out of Kenny Omega.
Yeah, without the big Shield push and all the stuff he got, he doesn't get that big contract. Nope. So I mean, good for all of them. But yeah, Shield's important. Okay, well, my number 5.
Yeah.
Which based off just where this has gone, don't think it's probably on your list, but I did the Hart Foundation.
Punt.
Oh, really? Jeez, I suppose you're Canadian. What am I doing?
Yeah.
I should know that.
Right, and so my number 4 now was the Horseman. Now, I know it was law of diminishing returns with a little bit of an uptick at the end with when Benoit and Malenko joined. I actually have a slight fondness for that group. But you cannot deny the impact that the original 4 and then Barry Windham right afterwards had on professional wrestling. That is insane. They were the first true mega heat stable in the 80s that I can find any record of that's not really local.
Yeah. Well, and I mean everything about they prove that of what you do in a faction. You have the main first, and let's not forget their JJ Dillon is awesome.
Yeah, a manager who could talk in a group that could talk.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point right there. A group where every one of them, besides the Oli, could talk.
I've seen it.
And actually, Oli talked okay.
I will say he is the weakest. Yes, but there are a few where it's like, damn.
Yeah, well, because Oli's just like Terry Gordy was. He's just a big badass.
Well, he's a racist piece of shit badass.
Oh, no, he's not a great person.
Oh, fuck no.
But he's not that. But I mean, then you had, everything about it was just. And then of course you have Ric Flair as your lead, good looking, loudmouth fucking dude who is now how many of those things do you see Ric Flair things on TikTok still? Yep. From the NWA, because of just how over the top crazy the shit was.
And then you have his right hand man, Arn Anderson, the enforcer, and then you had Tully Blanchard, who had some really great rivalries on his own with Dusty and Magnum.
Yep.
And then of course we had Oli, who was the tag team specialist, and then when he left, they brought in Barry Windham to be the single star, so the mid card single star, and then they teamed up Tully and Arn.
That was great.
Yeah. And then after that, you had some misfires. They brought in people like Sid Vicious. They did Sting for a spell. There's Paul Roma, which, funny enough, Paul Roma, when he did the very first time I ever saw the Four Horsemen. Weird.
Funny.
And then, of course, you had Chris Benoit. You had 2 stints. Jeff Jarrett, if you can say he's in there. You had Mongo. You had Pillman. And
Mongo.
And the final one with Dean Malenko. And even Mr. Perfect was in there for a brief comment.
Oh, my God, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, when I don't think any of that stuff. Oh my
No,
god,
me
that stuff is all
neither. But I
bad.
mean, like, just think of the names that had been in it. Like, they obviously never reached their peak again after basically when Arn and Tully jumped ship, that was the end because JJ also went.
Yeah, JJ jumped too.
Yeah.
Took that money. Took
Yeah. Well,
the
that
McMahon money.
That and he could head office job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Security. So yeah, the Horsemen they were the first.
Yeah. Can't not have them on a list when you're the first. No matter where it is.
I would argue they're this low, but I mean, like, there are reasons why we have others higher.
Yeah, and again we're younger. I mean, that's just part of it.
Right. And like I said,
we didn't live.
First exposure to the Horsemen was Paul fucking Roma.
Yeah, I liked Paul Roma.
No, I like him too, but I mean, like, out of all the versions of the Horsemen to get into first, it's Paul Roma.
I know. So Paul Roma. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, and again, like when we get a little like my higher on my list, and I'm not really again. I can't help my affection for him, and it's my age when we get going, and like literally the next like 3 of my next 4 are all based around like the age of it. Like, but my number 4 is probably blasphemy for most, but against my ECW side, it is the triple threat.
And like I said, I was thinking about them, and I didn't even watch ECW.
Oh my god! When Douglas, Bam Bam, and Candido were going, that was must-watch stuff in ECW. Yeah. Like, they were so badass, and it's such. First off, the triple threat is a spectacular faction name.
Well, totally, because they legit are a triple threat.
They were all so different. You had the heavy.
Was Tammy managing them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You had the heavy, you had the technical guy, and then you had the flamboyant loudmouth.
You had the star.
And
the really hot, let's just say, the really hot valet.
And the really hot valet that worked. Mm-hmm. Because she was actually with Candido. And in that group in ECW worked. So when you had them pay-per-views where all 3 of them are, and again, it's ECW, so it's a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
When they're just interfering in each other's matches, and Shane's main eventing, Candido's opening the show, and Bam Bam's putting Taz through stages.
Yep.
I mean, God, it was so good for that year and a half that was going.
Didn't it end when Rude convinced Bam Bam to turn?
Yeah, and then Bam Bam turned. I'm pretty sure he left. I think
that was at 99.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that was right when in '99 is when ECW starts to slowly nosedive.
Then he must have done that and left to go to WCW because I remember him being into WCW to the end there.
Yeah, '99 was when WCW raided the shit out of ECW's talent and paid them too much money.
Like Awesome, basically.
Yeah, that was the death. That was a big death nail.
Yeah.
And what a mistake Mike Awesome made.
I will say this. I'm not normally a fan of that type of tactic. However, if Eric Bischoff hadn't stolen Lance Storm, I don't know if I'd ever heard of him. Because no joke, my first exposure to Lance Storm was him winning all those titles. And I was in from day fucking 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, is Canadian legit one of the best I've seen in the ring? Like, holy shit. I'm 13? I'm like, damn.
Oh my god, yeah, I used to love. Well, and between him and Candido had some hella matches. I mean,
yeah.
And Douglas again, Shane could have been something. I mean, that guy had it, but he didn't have the backstage part of it.
I was gonna say he burned a lot of bridges.
He did.
Yeah,
but without burning the bridges, he probably isn't. Maybe he's never known at all.
You know what? You're right. If he hadn't burned those bridges, we would have had him throwing down the NWA belt. So,
and who knows? Maybe he never becomes anything.
Yeah, and who knows? We might not have ECW, right? At least not too worried.
Shane is at a very lost, which is funny considering he's the guy who, besides Dreamer, kept the glue there for as long as they did.
He's one of the Mount Rushmore. For sure.
But yet he's never put on it because he's just not.
I think it's because of the bridges he's burned. If I'm being honest,
probably. I mean, I would say that's probably true. But yeah.
Before we continue, though, I do want to say this about Chris Candido. I'm surprised more people don't do his blonde bombshell finisher.
Oh, it's such a good one.
Because I honestly don't think I've seen it. And then out of nowhere, MJF pulled it out against Adam Cole, I believe.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Wow. Well, because it turns out it was actually a big influence on him was Chris Candido. And so, yeah, I saw that. I'm like, it got me thinking. I was like, I'm surprised. Unless, they probably do it in independent, some of that. But I mean, like in mainstream, I've never seen anyone do it. I've never even seen it in a video game, actually.
Sure. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a smaller guy and you're a technical wrestler, I don't know how watching Chris Candido wouldn't
Right.
be one of the people you would watch.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if you watched Dark Side of the Ring.
yeah.
Like their episode with Tammy and Chris was really, really good, and it just kind of showed me, because I mean, Chris Candido is part of that blind spot for me. I know who he is. I'm very well of his career and stuff like that, but I mean, I've never really watched much. But it definitely, to see the appreciation people have for him, it kind of, I got it a little more, and that was around the time MJF did the power bomb, and he got brought up a little bit more in the conversation. It's like, okay, I get it, and then to hear them say on Dark Side of the Ring, the guy was 20 years too late. And it's like they fucking nailed it on the head. The dude, if he was around today, in his prime, would be making. He'd be on the level of the elite. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He would. I mean, he
would be in the elite.
I know. That's the one thing. Like, again, with all the Gaga, and I could go on a whole show about ECW about this. Mm-hmm. ECW had a lot of trash in it, and that's the reason why. Like, trust me, for a guy who craps on AEW a lot, because there's a lot of trash. I understand there's a lot of good in AEW too. Oh. ECW is the same way. There is some awful stuff in it. It's just but man, some of the good is good. And when you're watching Justin Incredible, Lance Storm, Chris Candido, RVD, Jerry Lynn, all these guys, these technical dudes doing semi-hardcore, but not. It's great stuff.
And then with who they've introduced, like they introduced the Cruiserweights to America, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit. Yeah. I know
Psychosis.
I know, but
Hoovy.
Psychosis, Hoovy. I'm gonna get this out of the way. I know Chris Benoit, whatever, but when it comes to wrestling, you have to talk about from him in the ring. Not anything outside of that, fuck him. Inside the ring, those are a different story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am with you. But here's the thing, though, that I think it helps in ECW's case. Like I said, there was a lot of bad stuff, and oh boy, did they make some bad decisions. I'm looking at you, Crucifixion of Sandman. But it's the crowd connection. It's the crowd that made even if it was a horrible angle, the crowd made it work.
Yeah. Those people, it is like the diehards. I mean, it's different now, but it is like that diehard crowd that follows AEW. I mean,
they were the legit last.
They want to do. Oh yeah, ECW is the last territory.
Yeah,
truly. Yeah. So.
Yeah, like I know in before we go on, I know in sports you have in basketball particularly the sixth man. Well, the ECW crowd was the sixth man in that instance.
Yes, always.
Yeah,
wild.
All right, so that was your number 4, right?
Yep.
Okay, so before we go into each of our top 3s, let us do our rundown again. So again, at number 10, I had the Elite. Number 9, I had the Freebirds. Number 8, I had Evolution. Number 7, I had the Dangerous Alliance. Number 6, I had the Bloodline. Number 5, I had the Shield. And at number 4, I had the Four Horsemen.
Nice. All right, at number 10, I had Dungeon of Doom. 9, Evolution. 8, Bloodline. 7, Four Horsemen. 6, the Shield. 5, Heart Foundation. And 4, the Triple Threat.
Okay. So these next 3, I got a feeling like two of them for sure we're going to have on there.
Well, I have my Heart Foundation already, so I know one of yours.
Yeah.
And
so,
I would assume I might have your other 2.
Considering my number 3 is the NWO.
That's my number 3.
Okay. Yeah. So the NWO, only reason why they wouldn't be number 1 is because of my number 1, but also because they got to a point where they got oversaturated and it just became one of the worst things on the show. But when they started, that is what in Doctor Who universe is referred to as a fixed point in time. That is something that has to happen the moment Hulk Hogan turns on WCW and forms the NWO with the Outsiders. That pretty much jump-started what became the Monday Night War. Like, it was already... they were already firing shots, but this was the first grenade.
Yeah. Well, and it was like all the memories I have are just like the NWO again before it got crazy was Nash and Hall and Hogan just ransacking everything, spray painting shit, just beating people up in the back, throwing Mysterio against the trailer, which is so funny every time.
Yeah. What I love about that is apparently the neighbors thought there was an actual fight going on and they called the cops.
Good. I'm glad it looks so good. It's such a good fight, that backstage fight. That's why it's so used all the time, because it looks so good. But it just felt like, and again, like somehow in 1997, you kind of believed they hijacked the show in real life.
Yeah.
Like, what? Of course they didn't do that every week.
All their logos for all their shows wasn't just WCW. It was WCW/NWO.
Yeah, that's wild.
WCW/NWO.
Got its own black and white.
Sold
Camera
out.
work. So, like, it was wild how insane it felt. Like, they made you feel. And again, we, at the time, again, we were young. But looking back, like, we all knew that, now we all know that Hogan had creative control. Nash and Scott Hall had this, like, weird control.
They had favored nations, which means if you bring in someone who gets paid more than me, I get automatically bumped up. And him and Nash had that.
And because they knew that, and, like, the people at the time knew that, it really made you feel a little bit like they are controlling the show. Because they were a little bit. But still, not like they actually ran the whole show, but you believed it.
Yeah. And then you started getting in people, like you were bringing the Giant, cool. You would bring in Six, I get it.
Right then is about when it starts to tip.
Like they added some decent members later on, like Scott Steiner, and I would say Buff Bagwell in there. I think was an entertaining.
I think Steiner was a good addition.
100%. You had Lex Luger join, Macho Man at various points. Yeah, it was.
You had Virgil, you had Horace, you had the Disciple.
Where it should have ended with me was a little bit I would have stopped with DiBiase, who was the original backer of the NWO.
Oh, yeah.
I would have ended there. But yeah, it got to the point where like every Jim and Joe Bob were in the NWO, and then
there's that one picture there's that one picture they use every time, and they're like, "There's too many people. They're all in the ring." There's like 15 of them.
Yeah, it still feels like a lot, though.
Oh my god, it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
there was so many. It got so bad that they split them apart and made 2 different NWOs.
And you know what? I'm Wolfpack for life, baby. Yes, you know I have the shirt. I love I'm all in on the Wolfpack.
That was actually truly not a bad storyline.
No.
Not bad. Short-lived because it can only go so far because it's still the same people.
Basically.
But
same shtick, but we're hipper.
Same shtick, but we're good guys. It's like, But yeah, I mean, what do you do?
The NW Elite. And let's not forget you had the B team in there. And then, of course, the very end of WCW, you had the black and silver, NWO 2000, which didn't really go that far.
That's right. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the only reason it didn't go as far as it could have was because, well, 1, it was a bad idea, and 2 was because Bret Hart basically had to retire.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, no, NWO's NWO. I'm not surprised.
All right, so that was my number 3. That was also your number 3. So the number 2 then is the other side of that coin, the one that always gets compared to NWO, and in my opinion, I think is better.
Really? You're putting Heart Foundation number 1? Really?
DX.
Interesting. Well, you got to punt DX because that's
okay. All right. Actually, well, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go to the Heart Foundation or go into DX then.
Well, you're missing. I got my number 2. DX is my number 1. So my number 2 is probably way too high, but it's the most recent. Was for me hugely must-watch TV. Even though I'm not thrilled with the members of it, doesn't matter because I thought it was so good. I choose the Wyatts as my number 2. The only reason why is because it was so different. It was so good. And I just remember people would wait for the Wyatts. And the only issue is that I think I have it too high, but I get it. It's because you're kind of watching for Bray. And he just had 2 good heavies behind him.
And not just that, Bray lost quite a bit.
Right.
Which I think, for me, is a strike against them.
Oh, doesn't matter, because to me...
Fair.
To me, it wasn't... The in-ring is almost not even what I think. I think of all the shenanigans, all the bigness, the lights going out, the showing up at the ring.
Oh, a lot of it was great. Don't get me wrong.
So good. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Short-lived, and that's probably why it's too high. But... And like Rowan and Harper aren't the greatest. I mean, obviously Harper passed away, but Rowan we all know is not the most wonderful wrestler in the world.
No, but when used right.
But when used right, and Harper and Rowan were used right in this.
And let's not forget the debut of Braun Strowman.
Right, and then you got into Braun, and then the Daniel Bryan stuff actually wasn't that bad.
No, it wasn't that bad. It was a little weird.
It was a little weird,
but
it wasn't terrible.
The pop that he got when he finally turned on them, like, what, 2 weeks later?
Yeah, it was so quick. It was so quick. They should have built that up a little more. But I mean, but that was, I mean, so good, and Bray was so good, and just so much about it. And Bray is like, he's the most interesting person because he is so mediocre. When the bell rings, I don't care what Bray does. He's never had a great match. He's, besides the triple threats with the Shield, because those were, especially that Elimination Chamber one with the Wyatts.
That was good.
That's so insane how good that is.
I don't honestly recall actually outside of that. Yeah, that many could say, "Oh, that was a great match."
Bray doesn't have good matches. No offense, he's never had a good match really.
It's Undertaker early in his career.
Right, because Bray brings so much, and those guys brought so much. Like I just remember for about that year, the people I was talking to at the time, the Wyatts were it. Yeah, the Shield was too, but in a different way. The Shield was like just cool, and it was like that typical wrestling cool.
If Shield was 1A,
yeah,
Wyatts were 1B.
It's the same.
You know what? It's DX Nation.
Yeah, truly, kind of, exactly it. I just like the Wyatts more because it was more cool, like, for me,
right.
Like the story. But, like, that's the same reason why when Bray's the Fiend, you kind of want to watch.
You can't help but
You can't help it. Watch. And, like, no offense, does anybody remember a great Fiend match? No. Nobody cares. Do I remember all the weird shit the Fiend did and how weird it was? Yep. I remember all that.
Do you remember the Firefly Funhouse match? Yep.
Do I remember some of the weird stuff that Bray did as a cult leader? Yep. I mean, so probably high, but I just
worms on the mat at WrestleMania. Sadly, yep.
Yes, yep. But again, I just think of it as so much must-watch TV for a while for me.
There is, just unfortunately, I guess I do take account into in-ring, and the stuff that they've done with him is very, very mind-boggling. Like the red lit Hell in a Cell match. Why the fuck would you do that? I think that hurt him.
No offense, Bray comes up with most of these ideas himself too.
Fair enough, but sometimes you got to say, "Whoa!" I've done practice run first.
Yes, I think a little bit of an issue with wrestling currently, right now, is sometimes wrestlers don't always have the greatest ideas. There's a reason why there's a booker and backstage people to tell you.
Yeah.
Maybe that this isn't a good idea.
And also his quick loss to Goldberg, which like, what the fuck? You're building this guy to be this dominant force.
Typical.
Old part-timer.
Wow.
Oh, thank you.
That's a Vinceism on that one.
Yeah. The burnt stuff at the end was a little weird for me. Like, I thought it looked cool, but I'm like, it made no sense.
It made no sense. I loved it, though. So stupid.
Yeah, and then, like, just, this is a character,
memorable.
Like, you're right, he's memorable, but unfortunately, the hype, the in-ring stuff just doesn't live up to the hype. The way they used him doesn't live up.
Bray is never, I mean, that's the biggest issue with him. Bray can't be The Undertaker because Bray does not live up in the ring.
It's just not that.
He never has.
Yes, but partially because of the booking decisions they've done.
Partially, but there's other. I mean,
there are some matches that he's had he shouldn't have lost, but he did.
Sure.
Like, for example, Mania 30 against Cena. He should have beat Cena, but he didn't.
Yeah, well, Super Cena doesn't lose.
Yeah, but I mean, I get it. Like, they are great. It's just, honestly, I didn't even think of them.
Oh yeah, I always do.
Yeah.
I think factions, but I get it. All right, well.
So my number 2 then is DX.
Yeah, that's right. And that's my number 1.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I mean, I think they're better than NWO personally because they didn't run out of steam. They didn't oversaturate. They're legit funny, some of the stuff they did.
Yeah. Well, in the incarnation from Shawn and H and China.
Yeah.
To the adding Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, and X-Pac was better.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which one do you think is better? And
I think that was better.
DX Army.
Yeah, I think the DX Army it's the greatest thing.
Yeah,
everything about it was, it's funny. They all believe, and like, even though they were goofy funny, you never thought it when they wrestled.
Nope. And they got the time they were in. They are definitely of that era.
Oh yeah, but for sure,
the stuff they did with the water guns and hey, show us your tits and
yeah.
And of course, like the highlight of that original DX Army run is when they rode up on WCW in the fucking tank.
Yeah, which is still awesome.
Yeah, it's still
and
awesome.
insane.
And for their anniversary, they came out on the exact same tank.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and that's the thing is like, and the thing that again, it's something you just don't see now.
No,
when you're comedic out, like not wrestling, they're always comedic in the ring. But that DX, when they hit the ring, it was business.
It was all business.
Like it was never like, yeah, okay, occasional crotch shot. And X-Pac was goofy, but X-Pac was always goofy.
Yeah, he was always goofy, but then you look back on his matches and you're like, damn, he could have stolen the show on a lot of these.
Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, when they're
over as fuck.
We're over so as fuck. And they their whole gimmick was a shtick, but in the ring they just beat the shit out of people.
Right. And then you had China, like what more can we say about her? Like she just added a woof to them.
Yeah.
And then you had Triple H, who was like at the halfway point of where he was going to be, like. And then you had the stuff with the Nation, which essentially the early days of the Rock Triple H rivalry, which culminated in arguably one of the greatest underrated ladder matches against the Rock at SummerSlam, which that in and of itself launched the Rock.
Yep.
Like DX is an important faction.
Extremely. Oh God. Yeah, I mean, they're the most important faction. I know you have Hart Foundation higher, and I get it, but in the history of the WWF, I mean, they're the last. I mean, my God, they even had that return with Michaels and H in 06, which
I thought was fun, and I get why a lot of people.
It lasted too long. It went on a little too long. It had some super fun moments.
Yeah,
like some of it wasn't. Some of it was too goofy.
Who else can get away with saying Vince loves cock?
Right. I still think their best moment as the return in 06 is when they did that Survivor Series and Shawn super kicks Mike Knox and pins him, and he's like, "Who is that?"
Buries him.
Just buries Mike Knox. I mean, but I gotta admit that is hilarious.
Oh yeah,
like, no, that is
and the stuff they did with the Spirit Squad. I mean,
was good stuff. I mean, I'm gonna bring up my honorable mentions, but Spirit Squad's on mine.
Yeah,
because they were the perfect foes for that time period.
Totally.
Yeah. So
they're not on mine, but before going to my number one, then I've got the Heenan family, I've got the Nation, the Corporation, the Undisputed Era, the Radicals, because I thought they were like that.
Yeah, I almost put Radicals on.
And then for recent, because they had some entertaining stuff, the Inner Circle. I thought they were entertaining.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the ones I had down were I had Freebirds, I had Spirit Squad, I had Legacy.
Oh,
Legacy was one I liked. I kind of get them because they were honorable mentions, so they're a little odd. I did BWO because I'm an ECW guy. You know another one in WCW I liked, and you'll appreciate the Flock. Yeah. I loved the Flock when I was young. They were awesome. It's a bunch of nobodies, but it is still fun.
It is, but it launched Kidman. Yeah, and the storyline with Perry Saturn, I really enjoyed watching that as a younger.
Yeah, then you had Reese and Lodi.
Yeah.
And Riggs. Lodi was fun.
Sick Boy.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, and then Kidman was the meth head.
Yep, it was such an odd group. And then you had Raven having a good time.
Oh, and Stevie Richards was in it as well.
Stevie Richards was in it, yeah. And then the other one I put on just to give some Impact love. I put Aces and Eights on mine.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I liked the Aces and Eights. That was probably the last time I was into Impact.
I know a lot of people give Bully Ray shit, but I've always enjoyed him, especially as a heel, because the guy knows how to piss people off.
Yeah. I thought Aces and Eights, him and Kennedy were...
Yeah.
That was the last real... I was a big Kennedy mark, and when he went to TNA, I was almost watching Impact for a while because Kennedy was in it, because I was such a big Kennedy guy. And when Aces and Eights were going, I was like, all right, I'm watching, paying attention because of this. I don't even know what else was going on in Impact, but I'd make sure to figure out where I could watch Ace and Eight stuff.
Yeah, you could tell it was definitely clearly a ripoff of Sons of Anarchy, but
God, of course it was.
Wrestling is chock full of pop culture ripoffs.
Totally.
I mentioned Magnum T earlier. The name came from Magnum PA, the TV show in the
Right. I was just gonna say, stole the name completely.
Just because he had a vague resemblance to
God. But that was like literally how bookers in the territories would name guys.
Yeah.
They would just name them off whatever they saw on television.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
All right.
All right,
So
let's talk to your Canadian guys and how you're being a homer, Soda.
It not totally, honestly. Just because I've been watching a lot of 1997 stuff lately, and this is a group, they weren't around, but they were all established stars,
Sure.
and they were one of the best acts at one of the weirdest times in wrestling history, where they were heels in the United States but faces everywhere else. And you had Bret Hart as the world champion, who in that time I will say you have I will include this Mania against Austin, and you had his match against the Undertaker at SummerSlam '97, which is a great match. Are you still there? Your picture's frozen.
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Okay, your picture's frozen.
Okay.
You had Owen Hart, who was basically reached the height of his singles career as the Intercontinental Champion. You had the British Bulldog, who I would argue was at the best in his heel run,
Yes.
as the inaugural European champion. You had Jimmy Anvil Neidhart there because somebody's got to get pinned. And then you had Brian Pillman, who, while technically not related to the family, might as well have been, and provided that weird, unexpected, whatever you want to call it. And they were one of the top acts in what was a transition year, and basically what was the seeds for the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
And because of how it ended with Survivor Series and the screw job, and because they weren't around that long, I feel like sometimes they kind of get forgotten a little bit.
They do.
But
because they never got rolling. Because really you get Brett and Pillman, and like you said, you get a beat up Anvil that is the guy taking the pin because it's Anvil.
Yeah.
And then I agree with you though. I think this is good Bulldog.
Yeah.
I think Bulldog was really good in '97 and '98.
96. He wasn't there in '98.
He wasn't. He didn't stick around after that. Wasn't he still around?
Him and Anvil left with Brett.
God, when he was in jeans was 90. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. I still thought he was good in '99 when he was wearing the jeans.
Really, you liked that? Huh?
I liked that. I thought he was still good. I'm not saying the gimmick was good because it wasn't a gimmick, but I thought he was still good. I thought he looked good still. I was into it.
He was at his best when he was with Owen.
Oh yeah, I mean most people were.
Yeah.
I mean truly. You know the only downfall is, and I wish Pillman was healthy at the time.
Oh, 100%.
And not his body wasn't completely shot already.
Yeah.
Because God,
if you had the physical Pillman of 1992 when he had his classic with Liger, but with the personality and the ring psychology of the loose cannon, holy shit, that would have been And then early we got so much.
I know that's always the crappiest part about it is because you imagine if we could have got some Pillman matches in there.
Well, even not Pillman matches, I think he could have if he had wanted to, he could have transitioned to either being a great manager or a really great announcer or just an on-air mouthpiece. Like he would have had a great out-of-ring wrestling career as well. Yeah,
and he would have done it. And also the other good thing about this Hart Foundation too is by far Brett's best promos.
Oh, 100%.
Because he was as real as he probably ever is. You know, Brett's a very underrated promo, I want to say.
Because he went so long with being not the best promo.
Because he never was the best promo, but he was never a bad promo.
No.
I mean, if you watch his stuff from like 93, 94, I always thought his stuff was pretty good. Yeah. He's just a real person, you know, in
he just did most of his talking in the ring. He got what he got out by awards, but everything else, all those points were made up there.
Yeah. But that's the only issue I have with the Hart Foundation. Man, is that a small window of time.
And I mean, like I showed 50 the Stampede match.
That Stampede match is
and I was explaining everything to him about the importance of it and all that stuff. He's like, "Holy shit!" And what I love about that is one of the few times where the crowd is cheering so loud, you see the camera shake.
Yeah, the camera's totally shaking the whole time. That match is one of the
special. And then of course you get the end of it, and it's the last time the entire Hart family were together at one time.
Yeah,
It's just weird to say.
it's cool. Yeah, that match is like one of the easily the most rewatched matches I've probably ever seen.
Yeah,
because it's just so cool.
yeah, it's weird.
And the talent, and it's
being a heel, like, but
yeah.
but they were in Calgary, like you couldn't expect.
But yeah, but then the other 5 guys in the ring are just like it's crazy.
Yeah,
that it's the Road Warriors and
Shamrock
and Shamrock and Goldust. Like, what a first off, a little bit of a random group, but like what a cool group.
Yeah, and then you look at it, they were all in feuds with somebody.
Yeah,
except for the Road Warriors, they were just there. But I mean, like Shamrock,
they wanted the draw.
Shamrock was in his feud with a Bulldog, and then you had Owen and Austin, and then you had Brett and who else was in that fucking match?
No, it was Goldust, but Goldust wasn't Goldust.
No, Goldust and Pillman were the pair.
Yeah, because wasn't one of it was either Shamrock or Goldust. There's a story that they were stand-ins for somebody else.
And it was Austin who was the counterpart to Hart, because that was
is this the one? Is this the? If I'm right, I could be wrong. One of the two, either Goldust or Shamrock, wasn't originally slated. And I'm trying to think of who the other person was supposed to be. It wasn't like Ahmed Johnson.
It might be, because I mean he was supposed to do a lot of stuff, but his kidneys and shit.
They had him pegged to be a monster in that company. But yeah, there is something about that. Like, I feel like I could be wrong, but I think I remember Bruce on his podcast talking about how one of those two guys were not originally slated.
Yeah, I seem to remember that as well.
And I'm just trying to think who the other person was, and it might have been Ahmed. The Road Warriors had to be in there because they just brought him back and they paid him a lot of money.
Yeah. I'm just looking it up at Wikipedia. Oh, okay. So I guess they got involved because on an episode of Raw, LOD faced the Godwins, and after the victory, the Hart Foundation attacked them and Shamrock.
Okay, so Goldust was the substitute. It must have been.
Well, I don't think so, because he was in a feud.
He was doing Pillman, right?
Because they had because at SummerSlam it was the match I think where Pillman ended up in the dress, or was that Ground Zero? Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Either way, all right, we got a list to make.
Okay, so what were the ones that we had in common?
Well, number 1 should probably be DX since they were 1 and 2.
Yeah. So okay, I'm just going to do banners for this. Rankings. All right, so 1 DX.
Yeah, and 2 should.
Yeah, 2 should be NWO.
Yeah, and then 3 should be the Hart Foundation.
Okay.
4 is the Shield.
3 Hart Foundation. So 4 was the Shield?
Yeah, based off just our numbers.
Okay.
And then Horseman.
4 Horsemen.
And then I would say, just based off our numbers and being combined, I would say Bloodline.
Yeah, oh yeah, Bloodline would probably be... Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then Evolution. Those are the ones we had in common. Then we had a couple that we didn't.
I see Freebird should be on there because they were in your honorable mention.
How many spots do we have left?
We have 7, 8, 9, 10, so 4 more.
Yeah, Freebird should be on there.
Yeah, where should they be?
Well, who else do we need? Who else do we have on yours?
Okay, so on mine I have the Elite, the Dangerous Giants, and that's it. After that's all my honorable mentions.
Yeah, because I have Triple Threat. But I'd put Freebirds next.
Okay. That's the only one we have. Last one we have in common ish.
Yes. Yeah. I would say I would probably leave off Dangerous Alliance, and then I'd put the Elite Triple Threat Wyatts.
I could do that. So Elite at 8.
Yep.
Triple Threat 9.
Yeah, and then the Wyatts at
10. Triple Threat or just Triple Threat?
It's the Triple Threat. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Now let's put it as the, because it makes more sense.
I think it's probably the.
And then 10 was, again, who, sir?
The Wyatts.
Wyatt. I'd actually say that's a pretty solid list.
Yeah, it's the triple threat.
So,
yeah, that's right. It's a pretty good list.
So at 10, the Wyatt family. At 9, the triple threat. 8, the Elite. 7, the Fabulous Freebirds. 6, Evolution. Wait, we're missing where's the Bloodline in here?
Oh, did you miss throwing the Bloodline in there? Well, I'd kick the 10 one off, and I'd put Bloodline at.
We had him at about 6.
Yeah, we had him right around there. We had him before Evolution.
Oh, my bad.
That's okay. I thought we were missing one. When you said we had 4, I was like, I think we had 3, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, we got to the Bloodline. Oh, something's not right. Triple threats. Elite. US Freebirds. Well, that right. And 7 was Evolution. All right, there we go. Okay, take 2. All right, 10, the Triple Threat. 9, the Elite. 8, the Fabulous Freebirds. 7, Evolution. 6, the Bloodline, but only because there's still more to tell. 5, the Four Horsemen. 4, the Shield. 3, the Hart Foundation. 2, the NWO. And number 1, D-Generation X.
That's it. Solid.
Very solid.
List. Solid list.
Yeah. All right, so that brings us to the end of our show, folks. So basically, this show, we're not going to do it every week. We're going to do it once a month, usually around the beginning of the month. So usually the first Wednesday of every month, we will be going live, barring whatever. So, So Dustyn, where can everybody find you in between that?
It doesn't matter. Just follow me at Dustyn Dubuque on Twitter. It doesn't matter.
I was going to say, or unless you're in his neck of the woods, he's got a local podcast.
I do have a local podcast if you just happen to live in Northwest Wisconsin, which you don't. So it doesn't matter. And
as for myself, Soda_the_Saxman, you can find me on the Northern Entertainment Group and stuff over there. And of course, you can find me here on the So-Dagan Network, where you can see my thoughts on wrestling. Thank you very much. On behalf of myself and Dustyn, don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow our buddy Dagan over on Twitter and on Instagram, and his other YouTube channel, the Dagan Mall, which is what he called it. We will see you again in a month's time, where we will have another top 10 list topic to be determined. So long, folks. Have a good week, month, I guess. Peace.